this, I think the main purpose of this is an opportunity to ask questions, and to make sure that, you know, we discuss things together as we go through. So are you happy for me to share some slides, Edwina?
Could I just be on Galaxy Tab A and my name put in there, because I know that that it used to be able to be my name sometimes there, and I'm not quite sure why I'm Galaxy Tab A. I mean, I might be out in the universe at the moment, but I would like to have my name on. Thanks, Melissa.
Hey, Marissa sorted it. Thank you. That's great. So I think that means everybody now can see each other's names. So that's brilliant.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen. We'll see how this works. I have tried very hard to do this. Everybody in the world is having IT issues right now. So tell me whether or not you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see that, and I can still see your faces, so that's great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit, and I will keep this short, but about what the words co-regulation mean, and why it matters to us as an association. So hopefully by the time we've finished in 40 minutes time, if you need me to, you'll have had a bit of an introduction to Soha, but I think all of you know us quite well. This is really the focus, to explain how we're run and how you can get involved, and to answer any questions you might have about how you can get involved and what that would feel like, what you might enjoy. So that's what we're aiming to do together this morning. Now, I've already talked a tiny bit about this, but I think it's just important to remember what a housing association is. And not all housing associations are the same. So there's lots of words used to describe housing associations, which can be a bit unhelpful. So sometimes we're called RPs, registered providers. I think that's probably the worst name you can give a housing association, because it tells you nothing about us. Housing association is obviously also what we're known as. But the really important thing is we are independent organisations. We are run by our boards. We are accountable to our residents, and we're regulated. So we sit in this sort of middle ground between being private companies and part of things that the government has some direct say over. So we do not have complete freedom. We have to set rents in line with national rent policy. We can't choose to suddenly start doing something completely new that could put at risk the stability of our service or the security of people's homes. We have to answer to our regulator to prove to them that we are well run, that we're financially stable, and increasingly we're going to have to answer to our regulator for more things, because basically after Grenfell they've placed a lot more focus on making sure housing associations are doing our core job well. So we are regulated by and we work in a space where we are accountable basically back to the government as part of that. It's a bit like Ofsted in schools for those of you who have children. But having said that, we have a huge amount of freedom and choice about what we do. So as a business, Soha spends about £45 million a year. It's an awful lot of money. We're spending that on delivering our services, paying our debt. We have an awful lot of borrowing, and building new homes. So that's what we're doing. Of that, approximately £45 million a year, it shifts around each year. About £28 million of that is money that is coming into the organisation. It's our income. And almost all of that is from the rents that are paid by our residents. Some of it's from shared ownership sales. Some of it's from people who are shared owners buying a little bit more of their property from us. A little bit is sometimes if we sell some land or property on the open market. But the vast bulk of that income is from our rents. The difference between the 28 million and the 45 million is new borrowing. So every year, right now, we're borrowing nearly £20 million, which we are using to build about 200 to 250 new homes a year. So we are a growing association. We've been growing consistently for about the last 10 years. And that means that we now, as an association, have about 7,000 homes. And I think it's hard to know exactly how many residents we've got, because we don't always know when someone's had a child or when someone's child's moved out, but probably 12 to 13,000 residents, something like that, is sort of is an idea. So as a business, we have to run like a business. We have to refinance. We have to take decisions about when to borrow money. We have to make sure that we're employing the right people. We have to have good systems for collecting our rent. We have to deliver excellent services. And we have to make sure on the right-hand side that we are able to evidence to our regulator and also to our board and to our residents that we are long-term, we're financially stable, we're not making any silly decisions in terms of the security of us as an organisation, and we're compliant with all our regulatory standards, which I've just touched on. I can go into those in more detail. But the really important thing about us, and most housing associations, although not all now, is our primary focus is our social purpose. So we're not profit making. When I say that, we do make what we call a surplus. We make a profit. Not every penny of people's rent is spent on services, but that all goes straight back into building new homes. Some housing associations, new ones, actually exist to make profit, which means that any surplus left over is paid back to their shareholders. That is not us. We are a completely self-contained system. So in all our surpluses go straight back into meeting our social purpose. So what we exist to do is on the left-hand side of this slide. Predominantly, we exist to meet housing need. We're operating in one of the most expensive areas of the country. It costs about 17 times the average salary to buy the average house in Oxfordshire, which is, I think, where almost all of you live. It's every single time we have a property to let, we have far more people who we could let it to than we have properties to let. So we have a huge need for affordable and secure accommodation. So that's the first thing. It's building new homes. It's making sure that we're making best use of our existing homes. We've got to deliver great services. That's the basis of the relationship you have with us as an organisation. You have a tenancy agreement. We have a set of obligations to you as our residents. So we need to make sure we're doing that well. We're also a community association. So we work within an hour of Didcot. We want to make sure we're focusing more broadly on what makes our communities great places to live. I think this particular year, this pandemic has taught us, like nothing could ever have done, just how important it is to know neighbours, to be able to rely on each other. And we see ourselves as having a really important role to play in helping facilitate that. And we also ask ourselves the question, what won't happen unless we do it? So as I've said, there's a lot more, we have an awful lot more that we could do than we ever will be able to. We could spend our entire lives building houses for nurses and key workers. We could spend our entire lives building temporary accommodation for homeless people. We could spend our entire lives building houses for shared ownership, for people to buy from us, and helping people who want to become owners take their first step to that. We have to make lots of choices. So at the heart of all our decision-making processes are conversations about priorities. What do we want to do more of? What do we think we should be doing less of? And that's really at the middle of an awful lot of our conversations. So many of you know this slide. Some of you will have been there when this was produced. But I pull it out because I think it really highlights how for a long time Soha has worked in the spirit of co-regulation. And I just want to say what I think co-regulation means. So what this says is co-regulation, we're on a journey from co-regulation to membership. I'm going to talk a bit about that later. But for the life of Soha, it's been a partnership between residents, staff, board, working together, making sure that feedback informs services, that people have the right information to be able to be meaningfully involved in making decisions together, and to share responsibility and to share power, and to make sure that people have ways of telling us when things are going right and when things are going wrong, and we're accountable back for what we do. So this was basically I think a really nice way of taking minutes at a meeting that happened back in 2018. so that's three years ago nearly now, to look at the journey to becoming a membership organisation, a mutual, which we now are. So I think everybody on the call, I know I've spoken with and together about membership, apart from you, Linda. So I don't know whether
I'm
you're
a
a
tenant
Soha
member,
member.
have been for ages. I just can't get to any meetings. My car
That's
died 3 years ago and I've got nobody to get there. It's
right.
nearly
Well, we're
£60.
delighted that the downside of not being able to meet in person is that you can join this, so that's really important. But I'm glad you're a member as well. So you are all, I think, shareholders of Soha. So if you think about, oh, I don't know, which company should we pick today? Let's pick BT. If you're a shareholder of British Telecom, you own a share. You are the owners of British Telecom. The advantage of holding shares in British Telecom is they pay their profits to their shareholders. So every year you could expect a nice check, depending on how many shares you owned and what they were paying as dividends that year. Owning a share of Soha works exactly the same way, apart from you won't get any money because we don't distribute any profits to our shareholders. So you can't sell your share, you won't get any money from your share, but you have exactly the same power as the shareholders of British Telecom, in that the board of Soha are accountable to you as the owners of the organisation. And I think for me, you have a set of residents have a set of rights as shared owners or as tenants, but as members you also have a set of rights as owners, and it's about entrenching this culture of being mutually accountable to each other for the success of the organisation, and working together to make it as good as it can be. So that's really at the heart of co-regulation. Now, I don't even know, some of you might even be on these slides. They're very old, but I like them. There's Richard, and his picture goes back up because it shows just that this is the heart of our ethos as an organisation. That's Nasreen looking, I have to say, to be not Nasreen top right, Nasreen staff member, looking slightly blonder than she does at the moment, I have to say. That may be a bit mean. Nasreen top left is one of our resident board members. And I think these pictures sort of show how we're working together. Now, obviously, they were taken when we were gathering together in rooms. We will be gathering together in rooms again in the future. But on there, you have staff of Soha, residents of Soha, people who are residents of Soha and board members, people who are just board members who aren't Soha residents. And just on one slide, you get the sort of spirit of what co-regulation is about. And it also looks like people are actually having fun doing it, which is quite important because it's a way of connecting. And I think that's sort of at the heart of why we try and enjoy doing it as well as doing it, I think. So I think that's why I like that slide. This is a less attractive slide, but it's hopefully reasonably informative. And it shows you a sort of different variety of ways in which people can choose to get involved. So the left-hand side of this slide is what we call our governance structure. It's basically how we make decisions together. It's who is responsible and accountable for the delivery of everything in Soha. So if you're doing something on the left-hand side of this screen, you hold a formal post which has responsibilities attached to it, which which give you a set of responsibilities for the organisation. So on the governance side sits the board. Now, I don't know if you can see I can't actually move my pointer around the screen, but the board are responsible for the governance of Soha, for setting our future strategy and for setting our key policies. So we have board meetings about 10 times a year. I sit on the board with other board members. There are 12 board members in total. 5 of those people are usually residents. 6 are usually from the community, and the other person is me. Now, collectively, the board are the body who are accountable to everybody for all the big decisions that Soha makes. And they're accountable to our regulator for Soha's performance. I am accountable to the board, if that makes sense. So they are the most important, in terms of accountability, they're the most important decision-making body in the organisation. Now, We spend a lot of time making sure that the board works well as a group of people, and also that we have the right range of skills and the right sets of experience for that group to work really well together in terms of decision making. So engagement of residents in the board, as Marissa has said, is absolutely critical to that board doing the best job they can, because what we want is a breadth of experience. Now that's sort of skills like finance, development, to pick up on Marissa's things earlier, you know, IT, legal, you know, HR, all sorts of specialist skills. But more importantly, it's a breadth of perspectives, because that's what makes conversations there rich and meaningful. And the fact that we have 5 residents means that those conversations are always grounded in reality. They're not too abstract. So I think it was Sarah who said at the beginning that social housing can feel quite complicated. It can feel like there's an awful lot of complexity. There can be in terms of our policy environment, our choices around what we do. But at the heart of this is something really, really simple. I think it's what Linda, you said, it's about what we actually do, which is provide homes. And then by providing homes, people build lives. And that understanding of what this is all really about is something I think has been is dear to Soha, and is absolutely at the heart of why our structures make sense, because we're getting that every single day we never lose sight of what this is actually about. We don't think it's really about you know, doing mega deals and mergers with building companies. We know this is about people, communities, homes. So that's I think a really important part of us. And as Marissa said, we will be looking to recruit 2 new resident board members to the board in the autumn. So if any of you are interested in doing that, let us do talk to us more about it. And hopefully you'll find out more through some of the sessions we're running over the next few months that will help you make that decision. The board then has 2 committees made up of the same people. So all the yellow boxes are formed of those 12 people. We've got 1 co-optee position that comes in outside to audit and risk. So we have a special group meeting tomorrow evening, actually, who look at internal audit reports that are commissioned externally from us, but report to us, that look at in detail areas of the business. So it's like scrutiny, but paid for scrutiny. And they look at risk. So we look at risk a lot. We're looking at risk an awful lot right now because obviously with everything that's going on externally, things are less predictable than normal for everybody, and they're also less predictable than normal for Soha. So they help us look at risk. They help us look at financial issues. They sign off our annual accounts. And the other committee is what we call personnel and remuneration. They're responsible for setting our policies around how much we pay people, and also for thinking about issues like training, making sure we're thinking ahead in terms of who we're going to want to recruit to make sure that we remain well run and governed. So that's sort of their job, and they set some of the key policies around that. At the bottom of this slide, Soha has actually got 2 separate small legal organisations, separate legal organisations, both of which are wholly owned by Soha. One is called SIB Property. It's very small. What it does is enable us to do things we're doing to generate profit. So for the last couple of years, we have built a very, very small number of homes that we've sold on the open market. And the idea of those has been to generate profit that we've then used for doing other things with. So that's what SIB Property does. Soha Neighbourhood Services Board at the moment does absolutely nothing. It has the simplest set of accounts in existence, in that we don't do anything in it, and it doesn't have any money in it. But we've kept it in case we ever wanted another organisation to do anything with in the future. So one of the questions is whether or not we're ever doing anything that means we will want to have that separate company, but it sits on this piece of paper just to let you know it exists. So that's sort of the legal governance structure on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is what I've called the engagement structure. This is how we try and make sure we are making decisions together and they're well informed. So how these 2 halves link together is really important. But at the top of that engagement structure is the members forum. Now, Trevor is our chair. Trevor's on this call. And that's an elected representative body directly elected by all members of Soha. So you have up to 18 members who sit on the forum. It's the forum meeting on Thursday this week. So forum come together about once every 2 months normally. And we will consult with forum or ask for forum's involvement in creating the plans that then will go to board. So for example, over the last year, we've been talking a lot about putting our next corporate plan together. We've had sessions about that at forum. Lots of residents, forum members and other residents have been involved in helping us shape that. And that is now going to board for approval at the end of January. We're talking about it, was looking at the draft document together at forum this week. So whilst the decision-making power, if you like, sits with the board always ask for anything that is resident facing, ask for the forum and residents to have engagement in creating the things that they're then asked to approve. So that's sort of the role of forum. Really importantly though, the forum also gets to decide what it wants to do. So it's not just about us saying to forum, we would really like your involvement in this. It's about forum saying to staff, we think we want you to we want to have a real look at how our allocations process works, whatever it might be, because we think this is something that we would like more of a say in. So the forum can sort of start work off as well as look at things that we're asking the forum to look at. And then you'll see links from tenant scrutiny and auditors. I know some of you are involved there. And also portfolio holders linking into forum. So people can be involved in scrutiny, which is basically checking we do what we say we'll do, in summary, and audit, which is about looking at how we're doing things and whether we could be doing them better. And also portfolio holders who take a particular interest in a particular area of our work. So for example, a portfolio holder who's particularly interested in repairs services. And they then can feed in their particular expertise and the work that they're doing to forum, and also often get invited directly to board, particularly to present reports, for example, on areas of work we might be doing differently, we want to do differently. And we then have a series of groups who look at issues that are particular to particular groups of people. Seniors and DAG, known as Disability Action and Awareness Group, are two that are very well attended. We've had a series of youth projects. We haven't got any sort of permanent groups that work with the same group of young people who are young residents, but we have a series of projects that have worked with groups of residents the whole way through. And then there are lots of other ways in which people can choose to get involved, either formally through meetings or informally. We try and make sure we're giving people lots of opportunities to feed back on services. We ask people to get involved on social media. We're always interested in giving people options and opportunities to get involved in their neighbourhoods, in their towns, with us as an organisation. So that really goes right the way through the heart of what we're doing. When we're talking about co-regulation, we're talking about how all these pieces fit together, and how we can share, how we can give people enough information for them to choose how they want to get involved, and then how we can share information and decision making and benefit from everybody's perspectives. So just some principles. I've written these, they're not formal, but I mean, I think the principles that underpin how we work together are about cooperation, they're about accountability. We have to be accountable to you for the services that we deliver to you and the choices that we make as an organisation. To do that, we have to be transparent. You have to be able to see how we're doing, where we're doing well, where we're not doing so well. We have to be open to questions on that. We have for people to feel engaged with us as an organisation. There's that sense of pride in Soha, I think, that lots of us feel. There's also a sense of protectiveness of Soha, I think, that lots of us feel. So it's about how we make sure that we build that sense of connection to the organisation. It's about sharing power and decision making. And this is, to me, is really, really important. This doesn't work if what we do is ask people what they think and then go away and make decisions in a room. It only works if people feel they have a real say in shaping the future together. And to do all of those things, we have to have a commitment to making sure that we are offering good training and we're giving people good support. Everybody's perspective is valuable, and we need to make sure people feel fully able to get involved. The one that often intimidates people who aren't accountants is everything that looks like a massive spreadsheet. And we have a huge number of massive spreadsheets in the organisation, but we also are very happy to spend time and invest in training and support so that nobody feels that they can't look at our accounts or feels intimidated or concerned that they haven't got the skills that they need in order to be able to join in and do the work together. I'm going to skip these, partly because I've already talked long enough, but also because I think you probably already know this. But this is about why we became a mutual. And I think you probably already know this too, so I'm going to be really fast here. Basically, we've gone from a decision to become a mutual organisation made in 2016 to 750 members now, and the forum being fully elected. And at this point, as we've said, we're looking particularly at who the next people will be who'd be interested in joining our board. But the purpose of all of these sessions is to give you the opportunity to think about and explore how you might want to get involved in any way you want. It's not that one thing is more important than the other. All of the different things we've talked about are important, and it's about how we make sure that we've got things that people want to do, so that we can benefit from as many people's inputs and perspectives as possible. So we've just had a social housing white paper published. Lots of associations are spending quite a lot of time looking at what that white paper says, and I think for some it's going to feel like quite a big shift in direction. For us, I don't think it feels like a shift in direction at all. And that's because what the white paper is trying to do is put back at the heart of housing associations a real focus on service quality and a real focus on resident accountability, how you are accountable to your residents, and how you're making sure that residents feel able to tell you when something is going wrong. So the white paper has just come out of the Grenfell inquiry, which was obviously not only a tragedy, but also caused a huge amount of questions to be asked about why no one had listened to the residents in that block for years when they've been trying to raise concerns. And this is what the government has sort of come out with now, partly in response to that tragedy. For us, the white paper has implications, but they're mostly about evidencing what we do already. Because I think that the white paper is almost circling housing associations back to be more like Soha. So I think we really welcome the spirit of that document. There are practicalities in terms of how we're going to be regulated in the future that we have to take on board. There are specific things we need to make sure we can show we're doing. But actually at the heart of it is a sort of return back to that ethos of accountability that I think has always been at the heart of Soha. Lots and lots of ways in which people can get involved. So I put this slide up. It's come from another presentation some of you will have seen me do before, but I can share any of these afterwards if anyone wants to. But obviously people can choose to join our board. This was put up as a sales pitch for membership, so it was trying to show people what they could do if they were a member and what they could do if they weren't. But members obviously get to hold the board accountable at the AGM, can stand for election to the forum, and then we have lots and lots and lots of ways in which all residents can get involved. Any resident can stand to be a board member. You don't have to be a member to stand to be a board member. But also you can see long lists of the different things already going on across the organisation. And obviously we welcome participation in whatever way people feel interested and able to give their time. And I just ended with this, again, a very old slide, but at the heart of everything we do, I think, is that offer and that commitment to helping build community. It's not just about building homes at Soha, it's about building connections. And I honestly believe that the heart of our organisation is our relationships with each other, and that some of that is absolutely at neighbourhood street building level, but it's also about how we all work together to to support each other. And right now, these things are more important than ever. You know, we are seeing people losing jobs. We know how important being able to be online is. This is evidence of it. We know how important it is to know your neighbours, and we know that we've got a lot of local organisations who are meeting a lot of local needs. So whether you're interested in getting involved in something in your street, or you are interested in getting involved at board level about the whole future direction of the organisation and being one of the people legally responsible for it, then you know, there's options all the way through. So that's what Co-Reg's about, really, how we work together at all of those different levels. So that was what I wanted to share. Now let me see if I can stop sharing. And I've done quite a bit of talking, which, as those of you who know me will know, I often do. So you have to forgive me that, but I suppose it was a bit of an invitation to today. But we do have some time left. So lots of you have been involved with Soha for a lot longer than me. And you may want to add to what I've said. You may want to ask questions. So open to everybody, anyone who wants to say anything.
How would we get a project or an idea off of the ground from scratch?
So the person to talk to is Jackie and the Resident Engagement and Communities team. We have a budget, we set it, and we've increased it very significantly in the last year. So we've got a budget of about £200,000, and that's available to support community initiatives, community organisations, and we can support with time, staff time. We can also support with research if that's needed, and we can also support with money if you need some funding to get something going. So do you know Jackie Logan?
I've emailed her a couple of times, yes.
Okay, so Jackie is your woman, and the money is held in something called the communities budget, and decisions about that are made with Forum, and so it's about both coming up with an idea,
And
knowing what you want to take forward, and then getting someone to agree that it's what we'll fund out the communities budget. I'm happy to talk more.
Have you got any plans to build warden controlled flats for disabled adults? For example, my son is 24. He's autistic, bipolar, and got a few other things. He actually works for BMW. So he can do some things. I'm 53, coming close to 54. I will not be on this earth for very long. You know, there'll be a time when I'm not here. Certain things he can do, certain things he cannot do. He would need help with. I'm sure I'm not the only parent in England or the UK with how can he be protected when I'm gone, sort of thing.
Understood. So just a couple of things. We are talking with the county council actually about how we could find sites for building some purpose-built concentrations of independent flats. They see a real need for more local accommodation with support, actually, in this case, for adults with learning disabilities, adults with autism, and also some adults with physical disabilities. An awful lot of those people who need that support alongside accommodation are having to leave the county at the moment. So the difficulty for us in doing that is one, land, because most of our accommodation comes through the planning system, and the other is whether or not the county council can afford to pay for the support that goes alongside the accommodation, because that isn't covered by the rent. But we are absolutely looking at how we do it right now. So we have got a site in Didcot, which we think might work. We've just actually bought some accommodation off Bromford. Now, that's not new accommodation. People are already living in all of it, but they chose to seek to transfer ownership of some of their homes to another association, and we were successful in buying some of their homes off us, which includes a specialist autism unit. So we do now have responsibility for a specialist autism unit as an association. More than happy to talk more. And we particularly look at that when we're looking at our development strategy. Which are the priority needs we should meet, and how can we do more of that? one really big one for us is accessible homes for people with mobility issues, because we don't have enough of those either. Yeah. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Peter, you had your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of things, Kate. One is to do with your statement that there are 5 residents on the board. That isn't the case at the moment, is it?
There we have 5. We have a board of 12, and we have 5 resident vacancies. One of the things I always find interesting is I have to think and count round, because I don't think of people in resident and community member boxes. So let me just work it out, Peter. I'm sorry to have to do it like this. Marissa, it's 4 at the moment, says Marissa. Fine. So we've got 4 people there at the moment, Peter.
Okay, the other point is that you mentioned training. Soha is excellent in providing training, and I would suggest to the other delegates that they inquire about training that is obviously relevant to housing, but I'm fortunate that I'm doing a CIH course sponsored by Soha, so feel free to ask Kate or Marissa or Jackie what you can do.
Thanks, Peter. That's really good to hear. So yeah, we do some things ourselves, but we also pay for people to do CIH's Chartered Institute of Housing, their qualifications, TPAS, Tenant Participation Advisory Service, are running one of the sessions in this series, but also have other things on offer. We've engaged an organisation called Jewel, who've done some work with us in the past, to do some of the work in this series with us. But if you have a particular interest in following up, doing something in more depth, please do talk to Jackie. And we do make sure we put aside a proper amount of money each year to invest in skills development and training for both staff and for residents. So if you're interested in getting more involved, there are a huge number of ways in which you can do so, both locally and potentially through up to influencing national policy. If you fancy going and battering down the doors of Westminster when it's open, you have people who have already done that, who were Soha residents and who got involved in all sorts of different ways and ended up finding themselves but battering at the doors of housing ministers on national policy, and I'm all for that. So lots of support on offer. Thanks, Peter. Any other questions or comments? Sarah, are you talking?
Yeah, no, I'm just taking it all in. And it was nice for me to see the structure of things, how the different groups are connected. I don't think I'd quite got a full feel for that. So I think I would appreciate your slide on showing the structure of the groups, where
Yep.
how broad and how they sort of relate to each other. Speaking personally, I do feel that, I mean, you've fulfilled my needs in that I moved from north to south, and there's a huge differential in house prices.
Oh, yeah.
And I would have suffered by that and struggled to find a place that suited me. And thanks to Soha, I have. And I just feel this kind of umbrella. I'm nearly 70, and as I advance through the years, I feel that I've got some I'm on my own now, the area. So it's this sort of nice umbrella feeling, and certainly I'd like to find some way of supporting it. I mean, right from the start, when I handed over my money, what little I had, I figured it wasn't going to support somebody's generous lifestyle, or, you know, it's not gone to profit, it's gone to build more houses. And I felt that right from the start. So,
Good.
yeah.
Good. Thank you. That's a lovely thing to hear, Sarah. So thank you for saying it. Thank you.
I must admit, when I got this house, it was the first time in nearly 2 decades I actually felt safe.
Yeah.
It's the right area with the right. It's almost like you vetted my neighbours to be my neighbours. Do you know what I mean? If I could have checked the same boxes.
Well, I mean, what I've heard ringing through what everyone has said here is that there's this almost desire to give something back, to contribute back to the organisation, and I mean that's incredibly precious, I think. And I mean, what my ambition is for Soha is that we continue to give people the service they need, the home they need, and also it may sound patronising, I don't mean it to, but the care they need, if they need that care, that humanity, often at a point in their lives when things are tough, that means that they come through that as quickly and as simply as they can, and then get back to a position where they can feed that back in again. So that sense of us as a sort of that mutually supportive sort of community actually is absolutely at the middle of all of this for me. And it's what I feel working here. I absolutely feel that support from Angela bringing in a box of chocolates to reception and sending us little cards every so often telling us when we've done something right, as well as hearing from Angela and others on the call when we aren't doing things right. You know, I trust you to say what you think, and do it because you care about Soha, and that is I think at the core of why we all work together the way we do. So
It's good.
thank you. Anyone got anything else they would like to say or ask?
Thank you, Kate. Even
Well,
though I
thank you.
heard you do this a couple of years ago, I still enjoyed it. It still brought me up to date. You still talked about the white paper, so we're going forward. And I look forward to the rest of the training that I've booked in for to upskill me. And thanks to Soha for the training. That's it.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Jackie put me on this one on the 28th, I think it is. To do with housing officer training or something like. I can't quite remember. I've gone word line, so.
Well, thank you all very much for your time this morning. Absolutely open door. Do talk to me, Marissa, Jackie, if you would like to know more about any of the roles we've got, any of the different ways in which you want to get involved, or if you've got ideas about things that you think we should have that we don't have. So yeah, please do just pick the phone up, drop us an email. I will make sure I get the slides sent out to you all from this session. And I look forward to seeing many of you on Thursday night. And for those of you I haven't seen there, I hope to see you again on screen or in person soon. Of course, Angela.
Linda, Soha have been absolutely amazing to me and enabled me to do stuff by providing transport. So don't think that not having a car makes any difference. I haven't got a car either.
Yeah, I have been offered transport, but worked out the taxi fare would be like £60 or something to get from here to Didcot, and I just don't want to waste money that way. £60 to me is horrendous to waste on a car journey. Do you know what I mean?
Well, for the foreseeable future, Linda, we are doing an awful lot like this. So if this is the way of luring you in, then there will be an advantage to having to spend too much time on Zoom. So please don't let distance put you off. We need to make sure we're enabling everybody to join in.
You know, a fly on the wall, a spy on the wall, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Can I just suggest that any new delegates can observe the next members forum by getting in contact with Jackie, and you can become an observer to see if it's something you'd like to do in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Peter. So that's Thursday evening, Linda, if you're up for that, or anybody else on the call, if you would like an invitation, again, ask Jackie. We'll send you the Zoom link, and you can come and see how the forum works.
Okay.
Next one's Thursday evening. All right. Thank you very much indeed for your time, everybody, this morning. Nice to see you all.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.